supports banning of old Naira notes from February 10th. Action plan for implementation of ECOWAS Commission Disabilities Inclusion Act validated and ready for rollout in member states. Independent National Electoral Commission says 2023 elections will hold as scheduled. Plus, death toll in quake-hit area of Turkey, Syria passes 11,000. The Federal Executive Council has approved 117 billion naira contract for the construction of oil and gas museum and research center at Oloibiri, Bayelsa State. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, announced this while briefing journalists after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adam Sambo reports.
Oloibiri, Bayelsa State, is where oil in commercial quantity was first discovered in Nigeria over 60 years ago. The approval for the construction of the Oil and Gas Museum and Research Center there more than 3 decades after the project was conceived presented a unique opportunity to correct a historical oversight. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, told the council that the museum would also preserve the heritage and developments in the oil and gas sector as data, equipment, and tools used in the Nigerian oil and gas industry will be stored for posterity. The research facility, he said, will also close a major gap in the nation's quest for homegrown technology inputs required to service exploration and production activities in the Nigerian oil and gas sector.
So this actually is a major milestone and is expected to be a major legacy of Mr. President in the Niger Delta.
The minister used the opportunity to reassure Nigerians that the federal government is not leaving anything to chance towards addressing the lingering fuel crisis in parts of the country.
We are not happy at all what is going on. Every hand is on deck. Today, there is supply, but unfortunately, the distribution and movement of the product to various destinations, we are experiencing some bottlenecks. And I want to assure you that everything is being done, the NNPC Limited, NMDPRA, all the marketers, everybody's hand is on deck to ensure that this problem is resolved. We have reports of profiteering by marketers, and I've directed NMDPRA to sanction anybody who profiteers on this kind of situation. I mean, we cannot stand by and watch our citizens being exploited by marketers.
Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika also secured a 121.2 million naira approval by the Council for technical support and maintenance of the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport Kano for a period of 12 months. The minister gives update on the national air carrier, Nigeria Air.
We've got the aircraft ready, they're painted in their colors, we've gotten, cross all the T's and dot the I's. We're at stage 5 of the AOC issuance by NTA. And once that is done, the airline will begin to fly. It will be very, very, very soon, with the emphasis on soon.
Meanwhile, before the commencement of the council meeting, a moment of silence was observed in honor of the late Air Commodore Dan Suleiman. The deceased, who was a federal commissioner for special duties and health in the 70s, also served as military governor of Plateau State and Nigeria's ambassador to the Russian Federation. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Let's turn to electoral matters. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is reassuring Nigerians that the 2023 elections will hold as scheduled. The chairman stated this while speaking to newsmen after briefing the Federal Executive Council on preparations for the general elections.
We took members of council through all the preparations that we have put in place for the election. and the few challenges that we are facing and the steps that we have taken to address those challenges. I can tell you two of these challenges quickly. The first one is availability of petroleum products. We had a meeting with the National Union of Road Transport Workers, and they raised that as an issue of concern. Immediately after that meeting, we interfaced with the leadership of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. And right now, there's a technical committee working. The idea is for them to avail us the use of their over 900 land mega stations as well as floating mega stations nationwide for the purpose of stocking products to ensure that the Commission doesn't suffer any encumbrances in movement of personnel and materials for the election. The second one is the currency issue. And again, we had an engagement yesterday with the governor of the central bank, and he assured us that the Commission will not suffer any encumbrances on that score. Fortunately for us, all our accounts, national and state, are held by the Apex Bank. So we raised those challenges, but we have found a solution to those challenges. So be rest assured that the election will hold as scheduled on the 25th of February for national and on the 11th of March for the state elections.
The Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Organization says the chairman of the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council and Governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, will not succumb to any form of blackmail, but will rather focus on the bigger picture, which is the victory of the PDP in the 2023 general elections. This was while reacting to attacks by some critics on Governor Udom Emmanuel in Abuja. Let's hear more details from Timothy Yusuf.
Spokesperson of the Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Organization, Kola Olobodion, at a media briefing in Abuja emphasized that the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization chairman and governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel's towering achievements, as well as his sincere management of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, have further fortified Akwa Ibom and other states of the Federation as PDP strongholds at all levels ahead of the 2023 general elections. The campaign organization insisted that Governor Udom Emmanuel cannot be distracted from his excellent performance as the chairman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council by some critics through what it described as unwarranted outburst. The executive of Concerned Nigerians for Fairness and Good Governance at a similar briefing has also condemned attacks on the chairman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization and governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, by some critics. Members reminded Nigerians that all the presidential candidates in the forthcoming elections signed a peace accord to conduct themselves honorably and guard against unwarranted, inciting and provocative utterances capable of causing a rancorous elections.
Our great and beloved country needs mutual tolerance for peaceful coexistence and unity.
They enjoined Nigerians to play the game according to the rules. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The APC presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, has promised to harness the mineral resources domiciled in Kogi State to fast-track the development of the state and the country in general. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu made the pledge among other commitments at the Kogi presidential campaign rally of the APC held in Lokoja. Musbahuddin Wahab reports.
The APC presidential campaign train got to Kogi to hold a heart-to-heart session with the citizens of the state, but what they met on ground was a carnival, with party loyalists welcoming the team to the Conference Stadium, Lokoja. The campaign council commented on some issues of the moment.
We have all heard about the Supreme Court ruling. While other parties are dwelling and joyful that what the government of APC has done to the detriment of the people, they are happy because they thought that would be to the benefit in the 2023 elections. Unfortunately, that will never happen.
And so the implication is that if you have new Naira If you have old naira, make you they use them kole. They use them.
Kogites have longed for the full rejuvenation of a Jalkuta Steel Complex and dredging of a river Niger. The APC presidential candidate said these are part of his plans in addition to the industrialization and development of the mineral resources in the confluent states.
Agriculture will be our means of livelihood and prosperity. Amen. The North Central has the potential for great mineral industrialization, fabrication, engine building, and industrial development. I guarantee you, I know how to do it. I'm smarter than their candidate.
Kogi is the 30th state visited by the APC presidential candidate as he presents himself as the best option to pilot the affairs of the country. From Lokoja, Musbau and Wahab, NTA News.
The Tinubu Shatima Campaign Council says it is exploring its huge network across the country to make new friends and get more buy-in for its Hope Renewed project. The project now has ambassadors who run with the priority areas in the campaign document, which the council sees as a contract with Nigerians. The drivers of this initiative say the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate has assured of adequate protection of votes from the polling units.
It's been in all the polling units in Nigeria with the bid to sensitize eligible voters. In line with the Renewed Hope Manifesto of the Tinubu Shatima presidency ahead of February 25th presidential election. The target of this organization is just one goal, that is to mobilize 20 votes in all polling units.
And I think if that is the target, this is very, very achievable. Let me be honest with us. You see, this campaign is very tough. And this campaign is done at the polling units. And I would still suggest that we put in our efforts back to the polling units.
Our work or job is to sell the manifesto to the common people.
Less than 20 days to the presidential election, the group's maiden strategic meeting at the APC Presidential Campaign Council headquarters set the ball rolling for the task ahead. With barely 2 weeks to the presidential election, the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is charging all support groups of his campaign to intensify efforts towards galvanizing support for his victory at the polls. This was at the presentation of the book, Peter Obi, Many Voices, One Perspective. Ekene Ndulwe reports.
969 pages. A compendium of articles by various writers and opinions of newsmakers on the man Peter Obi. From his days as the governor of Anambra State to his sojourn as presidential candidate of Labour Party, this publication shares experiences of individuals who came in contact with him, and it seems their perspectives are the same.
We began documenting from where he was governor of Anambra State, where he gave exceptionally good governance, where he did so well in spite of the challenges.
Nigeria needs somebody who has the proven track record to redeem her from the problem.
Peter Obi is somebody that stands tall in credentials. He's somebody that stands tall in integrity.
So thank you.
The words on print are complimentary and appreciated, but the candidate seems to prefer their terms on print.
We need all of you to support us, especially in these final days, to reach the end of this race. This is a great country that can be turned around. And we can't succeed without your intervention.
In Abuja, Ekene Ndulwe, NTA News.
Federal government has called on the Federal Road Safety Corps to strengthen its collaboration with other security agencies for effective deployment of personnel to ensure successful conduct of the 2023 general elections. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, made the appeal at the first quarter of 2023 FRSC Court Martial's strategy session with commanding officers. Oyeyemi Ajayi reports.
After being sworn in as a substantive Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, the first test before the Corps now is the forthcoming general elections. With strategies being mapped out for proper road management in preparation for the elections, the Corps is now ensuring the certification of all vehicles presented by the various transport unions engaged by INEC for transportation of logistics, while warning that no command or officer of the Corps should show or exhibit partisanship during the elections.
So that there is orderliness at the polling booths. Our men will be deployed, and also to control general movement of vehicles, because there may likely be restriction of movement of vehicles across local government areas or across wards, as the case may be.
Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, represented by the Permanent Secretary, General Services Office, Nnamdi Mberi, charged the Corps to ensure hitch-free movement before, during and after the elections.
The Corps has an important role to play as part of an integrated national security architecture, whose role is strategic for the success of the 2023 general elections in Nigeria.
Another contentious issue the Corps plans to address is the alleged extortion and high-handedness by patrol teams. Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
All right, let's go on a break. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
The INEC voter enrollment device, IVED, has been introduced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to aid the Commission in compiling the voter register through the Continuous Voter Registration, CVR. It also ensures that data collected from every citizen are kept safe for referencing in the event of a missing or damaged permanent voter's card, PVC. Remember that only registered voters who collect their PVCs can vote during elections. To get yourself registered, you can visit any of the INEC accredited registration centers nationwide or start the registration process online by visiting www.cvr.inecnigeria.org, filling the necessary forms and booking an appointment to visit an INEC office close to you to complete the registration process using the IVED. As a citizen of Nigeria, to ensure that you can vote during elections, it is imperative that you get your permanent voter's card, PVC. The IVED is used to capture data of eligible citizens such as basic information, fingerprints, and facial images, which will be used to identify the voter on election day. After successful enrollment, a slip is issued for use to collect the permanent voter's card, PVC, when it is ready. The IVED is a reliable device used for continuous voter registration, CVR. If you recently attained 18 years of age or you are above 18 but have not registered before, watch out for the resumption of the continuous voter registration and get registered to vote using IVED. Remember that registering with IVED and collecting your PVC guarantee that you can vote. IVED is a system that can be trusted and will ensure that every vote counts. As a patriotic Nigerian, I have registered and I have my PVC ready to vote. This message is supported by the European Union's support to democratic governance in Nigeria, EU-SDGN.
Welcome back. On the global scene, President Erdogan visits quick-hit area as Turkey, Syria's death toll passes 11,000. And Ukraine's Zelensky arrives in Britain seeking more arms against Russia. Justin Bem Unyi brings us details now.
The death toll from a massive earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria rose above 11,200 on Wednesday as rescuers raced to save survivors trapped under debris in the winter cold. Officials and medics said 8,574 people had died in Turkey and 2,662 in Syria from Monday's 7.8 magnitude tremor, bringing the total to 11,236. Nearly 50,000 people were also injured in Turkey and another 5,000 in Syria, officials and rescuers on both sides confirmed. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan gave an update on the casualty figures during a visit to Kahramanmaraş, a southern Turkish city at the epicenter of the initial quake. Facing a tough May 14 re-election, Erdogan pledged to rebuild the damaged regions within a year. He also appeared to push back against criticism that the government's response to Turkey's worst disaster in decades has been slow. Erdogan said the government would help those who had been made homeless by the earthquakes by making hotel beds available. Erdogan also announced plans to distribute $530 each to families. It was not immediately clear who would be eligible for the aid. Meanwhile, Tunisia has joined the long list of countries that are sending aid to earthquake-hit Turkey and Syria. Dozens of nations, including the United States, China, and the Gulf states, have pledged to help, and such teams as well as relief supplies have begun to arrive by air. In other news, Britain announced an immediate surge of military deliveries to Ukraine to help it fend off an intensifying Russian offensive and pledged to train its pilots as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on a rare visit abroad. London was Zelensky's first stop on, only his second trip abroad since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24 after a visit to the United States in December. He is due to travel on to Brussels on Thursday, where the European Union is holding a summit. Elsewhere, at least 3 demonstrators were killed in an attack on a UN convoy in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the United Nations mission in the country said in a statement. Militias have plagued the mineral-rich eastern DR Congo for decades, many of them a legacy of regional wars that fled during the 1990s and early 2000s. The UN convoy was returning from a resupply mission north of Goma, the capital of North Kivu province, when assailants set 4 trucks on fire, the statement from MONUSCO said. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
An action plan for the implementation of the ECOWAS Commission Disabilities Inclusion Act has been validated and now ready for rollout in member states. Kelvin Ehunwahi reports that the Nigerian strategy through the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities is to be used as a template.
The ECOWAS Disabilities Inclusion Act, passed by the Regional Parliament in 2022 and validated by experts in Accra, Ghana late last year, put emphasis on member states to see disabilities inclusion initiatives as national investments. It addresses fundamental issues of discrimination, especially in employment and other economic and social exclusion for persons with disabilities in the sub-region. Nigeria's rapid successes in disabilities inclusion and policies development was applauded at this workshop, put together by the ECOWAS Commission to train focal persons for the full implementation of the action plan.
Our role as a regional organization is to provide a platform for you and a voice for persons with disability.
We have had instances of people who were sick before as at time of birth. Only try to play the chicken and they became blind. So disability can come to any one of us at any time. And so we need to pay attention. And even as government, although we are doing so much on our part, there is no doubt there is also still room for improvement.
Program now, I will not be able to read it, not because I don't know how to read, but because it is not printed the way I will be able to access it.
The training is to be replicated in other member states to enable implementing agencies in the sub-region move in the same direction. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwahi, NTA News.
As on to other issues, the Supreme Court has temporarily halted the move by the federal government to ban the use of ordinary notes from February 10, 2023. The 7-member panel led by Justice John Okoro halted the move of the federal government in a ruling in an ex parte application brought by 3 northern states of Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara. The 3 states had specifically applied for an order of interim injunction restraining the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria or the commercial banks from suspending or determining or ending on February 10, 2023, the time frame with which the now older version of the 200, 500 and 1,000 denomination of the Naira may no longer be a legal tender. The interim application is pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. And the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu has hailed the governors of the 36 states for standing on the side of the Nigerian people over the central bank new naira and cashless policies that have subjected the masses to pain. In a statement by the Director of Media and Publicity, APC Presidential Campaign Council, Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu said the governors, especially the APC governors, who instituted the suit against the CBN and the federal government at the Supreme Court, acted well on behalf of helpless Nigerians. The APC presidential candidate noted that the governors have saved the country from a needless political and economic crisis and misery, which have clearly become the unintended consequences of the monetary policy of the Apex Bank. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to consider reviewing the swap deadline if concerns persist. The fund, in a statement this Wednesday, said the advice became necessary in light of hardships caused by disruptions to trade and payments due to the shortage of new banknotes available to the public, in spite of measures introduced by the CBN to mitigate the challenges in the banknote swap process. The IMF, therefore, is encouraging the CBN to consider extending the deadline should problems persist in the next few days leading up to the February 10, 2023 deadline. An end of an era and the beginning of a whole new journey. However, the drive remains attaining decent work for Nigerian workers and engaging government towards good governance. The new national president of the Nigerian Labour Congress assures this at the NLC 13th Quadrennial National Delegates Conference in Abuja. We'll bring you that report in subsequent bulletin. This is where we end the news. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is John Bamidele. Bye.